been a yoga practitioner here in Miami, and you have cultivated a whole community in Miami. Since when?
It's been 37 years.
I mean, you had a studio before yoga was like the cool thing to do.
Well, we were the first Iyengar studio in the state of Florida.
And this is the house where Mr. Iyengar stayed. Ever.
Yes, and he sat here on the edge of the pond because he knew people were taking his picture. And he ran water out of his hands and he posed, and it was wonderful. I said, Guruji, you're a movie star. He said, yes, I am. Mr. Iyengar was here in 1983 after the first Iyengar conference, which was in San Francisco. He made a tour of 7 or 8 different studios, and we were the last one. He came here from Philadelphia, and he was very tired. So we brought him home, and I gave him my bedroom and my bathroom, and he disappeared for about 5 hours, and he was doing setubandha off the bed and recuperating, and he was here for 5 days, which was an absolute delight.
When he was here, he was teaching at your place?
He came and observed me teach 2 classes. He observed my yoga partner then teach a class. And then we had a class for people who had some physical problems. And so there were maybe 15, 20 people, and he would look at one gal named Anne, and he said, before she said a word, you have sinusitis. And she said, what did you say? And he was right on. It was wonderful. And she could never get comfortable in shoulder balance because she couldn't breathe. So we got her into Sarvangasana shoulder balance, and there were 5 of us supporting her and doing this and that, and she loved it. But of course that means every time she does shoulder balance, there were going to need to be 5 people.
What do you remember about conversations with him? Did you ever talk about meditation? Does he meditate, or his practice? What was like one of the most inspiring conversations that you had with him?
I think the most important thing that came out of conversation was be thankful when the students come you can teach. Be thankful when they don't come so you can practice. And then he said, and I have never forgotten this, and I've had over 600 people in my teacher training course, and the first thing is you teach for your students and for what you see in front of you, not for yourself or your preconceived idea of what you want to teach. And I think that's been the basis of making my teaching in my heart. And that was important. Another thing that I got from him was that everyone thinks he likes chocolate, and so they give it to him. He doesn't love chocolate. He takes it home to his children.
He doesn't love chocolate?
He likes it. He doesn't love it. But he lets everyone think that he loves it, so they'll give it to him. He can take it home to his children.
Oh, I never knew that. That's so funny.
Big secret.
Tell me a little bit about your practice. I know that for many years you've been a practitioner of TM, Transcendental Meditation. Tell me a little bit about that practice.
Well, I had never meditated prior to my life with my partner in life, Tim. And I noticed twice a day he would meditate for 20 minutes. And after each of those 20-minute segments, there was a new life force in him. And you know how we are by mid-afternoon, either you need a nap or something. He meditated, and it was as if he had a whole brand new day. And we found that there was a transcendental meditation place up in mid-state Florida. And Tim went up there and met the folks, and he came back, and I went up there, and I was the first initiative there. And I remember sitting in a pink velvet armchair, and my teacher's name was Ken, this charming fellow. And he taught me to meditate, and I felt as if all the bones inside my body, inside my muscles and skin, relaxed. Now I can get my muscles and skin to relax in asana, but the bones is another level, and that sold me. So since then, 20 minutes twice a day, I meditate.
How long ago was this that you started?
I think it's 24 years,
So you have an asana practice that's separate from your meditation practice.
which is separate from the pranayama practice.
So you have 3 different practices. And when do you practice all of these different practices?
My intention, intention is very important, is I meditate first thing in the morning. I do my asana practice, and then I like some time, and then I do pranayama. If life gets in the way of my practices, then I'll do pranayama later, and I try very hard to get my meditation in the late afternoon and not before I'm ready to go to bed at night, because I'm going to fall asleep. And so, and I think, you know how our practice is, Rosa. It feeds on itself. You practice, and the next day you practice, and the next day you practice, and pretty soon there's a different charm about what you're doing, and it feeds your soul. And I think that the meditation is the same way. And statistics have shown that meditation changes the physiology of your brain.
You have a very special brain.
I have blonde curly hair. I'm not sure about if it's a blonde brain, because the truth is I wasn't born blonde. Now, 3.5 years ago, I had a physical challenge. I had to have my left lower lobe removed from my lung. I'd never smoked, never been around it, and the universe took care of me and found this tiny little spot, and they had to remove it. I did pranayama and meditated for 3.5 days in the hospital, and I got through it. I glided, bad English, but I did. I slid through it, and I don't think it would have been as smooth and as comfortable otherwise.
So it's a very different practice. It's like a different tool, your pranayama, from the meditation, from
But they are on the same parallel. I find myself in asana, and you know, you can't plan this beforehand. You do your asana practice, or maybe a few poses, and you go, something happened while I was there. You can't say, I'm going to make something happen while I do this pose. But then I begin to feel that I meditated while I was doing the pose, and the breathing was sliding along with it. It's like being in a boat where the wind, the sun, the sea are all together.
So there is a point where they could all come together?
I've
never had that experience. So
I've had a few joyful moments like that, which inspire me to know that since I'm not that unusual from the rest of the world, although my children think differently.
children always think
Their children, that it's possible. And if that happens, it's a gift from the universe in its infinite wisdom.
Would you consider this like a spiritual practice?
No question. When people ask me if I'm a religionist, the answer is no. I was born Jewish. Do I practice Judaism? No. Then they say, well, what? I say, I have a spiritual life. And I trust that the universe has always taken care of me, and I have to trust it always will. Otherwise, how do you deal with the craziness that you can't control that's all around us? You can only pray that you can take care of yourself and instill a little bit of that into our students with our teaching.
So it's really a tool that can help us to achieve that.
And then we can negotiate with life, in life, with fewer dramatics and a little more grace, poise, and dignity, which I believe those are Iyengar's words. How can you grow older with grace, poise, and dignity? And now at the age of 77, I hope to attain that if I ever decide to really grow older. Which,
You're never going to grow older.
well, isn't there a difference between being old and growing older? So being old, I don't think I can qualify.
No.
But growing older, I intend to do that.
Well, you have a very light-heartedness. You're jovial. You're not old.
I'm goofy.
You are very goofy. That's what I love about you.
And goofy is good. Goofy is good.
So your spiritual practice really has made you goofier?
It's brought my goofiness to the surface. And, I take yoga classes from teachers who are very solemn and very serious and very intense, and that's fine for them. I can be very serious in my intention and still a little goofiness around the perimeter of it, and that puts I do not come from a family or my first marriage where there was much joy and levity. And we have that in our life right now. And so I want my yoga practice and my yoga teaching to share that. I think every day is a gift, and we have to treat it with great respect.
Today has been an amazing gift.
My pleasure. In asana, and you can't plan this beforehand, you do your asana practice or maybe a few poses and you go, something happened while I was there. You can't say, I'm going to make something happen while I do this pose. But then I begin to feel that I meditated while I was doing the pose, and the breathing was sliding along with it. It's like being in a boat where the wind, the sun, the sea are all together.